And welcome back into Crosstalk here on this morning's edition of the program. It is Small Business Mondays, and I'm Ben Blecha, your host. We're joined, as we are quite a bit on Small Business Mondays, by Laurie Jones from the SBDC. Laurie, thank you so much for joining us here.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
It's quarter two for businesses now. We're kind of into that second stage of the year, and this is quarter one's always a really tough quarter for businesses because a lot of people aren't spending money. There's a lot of different factors that go into quarter one. Of course, you're filing your taxes, you're figuring out how broke you're going to be for the next umpteen years.
Right.
And quarter two is kind of that new dawn for all of these businesses. And a lot of these businesses have a lot of great ideas, and the SBDC is one place, as we've always said, that you can go to help with these ideas, whether you're wanting to get into business or are a current business owner. But we want to start off here on this quarter two edition of the SBDC Small Business Mondays with what is the SBDC, because we talk about all these different things, but I guess the definition of this we've never ever really talked about on the program.
You know, and that's a great point, because even on our business cards it says SBDC. So just getting to the heart of what is the Small Business Development Center, and that's what it stands for, Small Business Development Center. Part of this is whether you're a startup business or you're an existing business. The question that I hope I'm going to answer with your help today, Ben, is why do I even need to go to the SBDC? Right. So let's start out with what it is first and foremost. And the 10 seconds is it did start as an initiative through the Small Business Administration back in the 80s. But today, locally, it has evolved into, within Colorado, I believe we have roughly 14 centers, and that's what we call them. We're part of the Colorado Small Business Development Center Network. The Small Business Development, or SBA money, comes and supports partial of our activities, and that is monitored through the state and comes through that direction. But here in our Northeast Colorado area, I am part of what's called NECO SBDC, which is Northeast East Central Colorado Small Business Development Center, and we are a 501c3, a nonprofit organization.
And that's, I think, the most important thing to indicate about the SBDC. A lot of people, when you look at things like the SBA and the SBDC, you say, well, that's government money.
Right.
I don't want to work through government money. There's a lot of regulations, a lot of restrictions. I can tell you, having worked with the SBDC personally for the past year and a half, the hardest thing I've had to do with the SBDC is fill out some paperwork.
That's right. So partly because we are funded through some grant money that comes from the federal government, we do have some paperwork which requires people to, list who they are, and it's for our purposes and so that the SBA does know we are working with real businesses. But with that said, again, the other thing is one of the benefits with the SBDC, and we'll outline what you can do with us in a minute, is that it's free. And the importance of it being free is not only do we have funding that comes from these other sources. Here in Northeast Colorado, we are hosted by the University of Northern Colorado Montfort School of Business. But locally in Logan County, we are sponsored by the Logan County. We are sponsored by the City of Sterling, Northeastern Junior College, Wells Fargo Bank, Bank of Colorado, Bank of the West, and the Walsh Family Foundation, and most importantly, the Logan County Economic Development Corporation.
It's important to have those local ties, and I would venture to say all of the SBD centers all across the state of Colorado have similar local ties, because one of the prime important answers to why you need to be involved with the SBDC from somebody who's been involved with it is that you have these networking relationships with people that can help you develop your business. And that comes with the county, that comes with the city. When I founded Big Time Small Town Media, I had not even thought about all the sales tax licenses, the permits, all that type of stuff I had. But because I worked with the SBDC, the city came to me and said, hey, you're going to need to work on this. Otherwise, I wouldn't have done it, and then would have faced fines.
That's right. And so, again, from a startup standpoint, so first thing is, how does this work? So if you're a startup business, as you were talking about, the very first thing, obviously, is you have to contact us, and we'll talk about that at the end of the show. But by contacting us and dealing with me, again, I'm Laurie Jones, one of the business counselors, and I do consulting for small businesses in Northeast Colorado through the Small Business Development Center. The very first thing is besides filling out the forms, which will take about 15 minutes, I ask the question, please tell me about your business. Tell me what your idea is if you're starting a business, and if you have already started it, kind of where are you in the evolution of the business. So the very first thing is a little history. Now, what can we do? And this is part of the initial meeting that we have. Number one is one-on-one counseling. And that means you tell me exactly the kinds of issues that you need to deal with, and I'm going to kind of run through a checklist.
Well, and that here on Small Business Monday, we've gone down this checklist, I think, for quite a bit of the things we've done here on Small Business Monday on Crosstalk, and there's so many different aspects to business, and I'm pretty sure the Small Business Development Center, you guys can touch on all of them.
Well, and, you know, the number one thing for someone wanting to start a business is answering the question, how do I start my business?
Yes.
And that's everything from the practical, you know, getting the name, registering with Secretary of State, to then number two, create a business plan. So we help about 90% of the people that come to see us in the NICO SBDC that are existing businesses do not have a business plan. And they come in saying, I need some help because I know how important it is for me to have the plan. Another key thing is connecting people that are looking for funding for their business to the lending side. And again, there's very few grants for businesses. There are some out there, but connecting to commercial banks, to revolving loan funds. Sometimes we're aware of venture capital sources. So all of those. The next big issue we see is, how do I manage my business? Maybe I'm not a good manager, and I know I have some issues. And with that, personnel issues. Do I need to create human resource policies? Where do I get information on this? How do I do that? So that's a few, and then I'll go through the list in a minute, too.
Absolutely. There's so many different things, and I pop in. I watch the Food Network a lot, and Robert Irvine has Restaurant Impossible, and one of the biggest things I see him having to work on is not that the food is bad or that the service is bad. It's that the business model is not running the way it should be. And that, in a term, is one of the biggest things that you probably deal with every single one of your clients.
Absolutely. And it's that show and some of the other great reality shows that deal with the world of business. The number one issue that existing business owners have is, well, I'm profitable business, but I never have any money. And that deals with cash flow management. How do you know if you have enough money coming in to pay the bills that are going to go out, and what are all the things you have to work on to make sure that that happens? Then it's also just, how do I budget? What's business accounting? We don't do tax planning, but people come in with issues, and if they don't have a CPA, we can give them some ideas of where to go for that. Marketing and sales. How do I grow my business? That is real critical.
That is a huge part, and yourself having experience in the business world and other people that work with the SBDC having experience in the business world, sometimes you just need that outside perspective. And that's what the SBDC is capable of providing.
And then just kind of, we have a number of other areas too, but let me tell you what I'm seeing a lot of now, which is buying and selling businesses. Depending on which side of the fence someone's on. The seller has come to us with, I want to sell my business. I don't even know the first thing that I need to do. I want to either retire or I'm moving or something. And then on the buying side, what are the kinds of things I need to be concerned with? So going through that, and then that ties into, working with attorneys sometimes. What's the difference between I need some help and I'm talking to my friend and my friend's telling me this, And sometimes it turns out to be a legal issue or a regulatory issue.
Mm-hmm.
Every business is different. Every industry is different. Everyone has a unique issue with their business, or they want to do something different. So none of the things that we do are very standard, with the only exception being writing a business plan is a process, and we have a tried and true process for that.
Absolutely. This is Small Business Mondays. We're talking about the SBDC with Laurie Jones, and we've gone back to square one. What is the SBDC? And, you know, Laurie, obviously we've talked about why you need to be involved with the SBDC. Now, I can hear the business owner inside of me saying, there is no way I have time to do all of that stuff. I've just got to keep my business going the way it's going. Answer that.
You know, and that's true, because anyone that owns a small business, operates a small business, it's not just the owners out there, it's those of you that are managers and are supervisors.
Mm-hmm.
You're going, how in the world do I find time for this? Part of it is, I'm going to ask the question, what is so important to you that you can't take an hour out of your time once a week or once or twice a month?
Mm-hmm.
Because standing back, having someone from the outside be objective, help you, point you in the right direction, can benefit any business. And in all seriousness, when it doesn't cost you anything, give up some hour during a week and find time to come and think about, what are the issues I have to deal with to improve my business situation.
It's being willing to sacrifice something that you don't think is sacrificable. That's probably not a word. I didn't go to college for English. But it being willing to do that to get the help you need, that's the first step.
Right.
with SBDC. Now, I'm not saying that every business needs help, but every business can benefit in some way from working with the SBDC.
Absolutely. And just to kind of let you know where we are, speaking of quarter one being over, I have worked with 22 separate businesses in the first 3 months of this year.
It's amazing.
And that's just in 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
And what it is, again, is it doesn't mean a business is in trouble. Sometimes it's just one session. And it might be, I'm thinking about doing this. Can you point me in the right direction for me to think this idea through for my existing business?
Absolutely.
Part of when you're thinking about your own business, you're like, well, what is the value to my customer? So my question is back to, this is how we encourage our clients to look at it. What is the value you get from the Small Business Development Center? Number one, what is the cost of your time?
Mm-hmm.
What is the cost of you being away from your business? It doesn't cost anything, but then what's the benefit that you're going to get? And we hope the benefit is not only meeting with me, but if we need to meet with someone else, qualified people that have been business owners themselves, assisting you, providing you with advice, and most importantly, pointing you at resources that you can look to not just one time, but forever once you get started working with us. Educational workshops, how do I do things, and just keeping up with what's a good tip of the day for me to be thinking about for my business.
No question about that. A couple more things I want to approach in this. What is the SBDC segment of Small Business Mondays, Laurie? There's several times that I've come in to meet with you, deer in the headlight, and presented this to you, and you've given me the deer in the headlight right back, because it's a problem that I thought in my head was, there's no way she's going to be able to help me with this. And I'm sure the first thought that came through your mind was, oh my goodness, I know nothing about that. But the SBDC is very capable of, if you don't know, finding somebody who does.
And that's why we call it the Small Business Development Center Network. Mm-hmm. Because if I don't know an answer, I know who to get an answer from. And that is maybe the biggest value we have, which is different people, not only within Northeast Colorado and East Central Colorado, but we reach out throughout Colorado, and periodically we can go to other resources.
Absolutely. That's a big one. And then the other one I hear out there is, what is the definition of small business? We've talked about what the center does.
Sure.
But how do you define a small business? Because some people, it's just them. Other people, maybe they think they're too big to be considered a small business. What is the definition of a small business for the SBDC?
You know, Ben, that's a great question. And the real definition is less than 500 employees. So I believe that covers an awful lot of people in the listening audience, and again, that is the engine of our economy out here in Northeast Colorado and Eastern Colorado.
No business is too small either. I think that's the other thing.
One-person business, sole proprietorship are some of the most fun things to work on because not only are they wearing many hats, but they have to be organized people, and they're often ones that, like, I enjoy because they're always thinking about what are some things I can do differently. And it doesn't mean they're necessarily selling products. They could be a service business. It can be anything that is organized legally in a structure, both as a business, and by the way, we also work with nonprofit organizations.
That's another one, a nonprofit being willing to help nonprofits and being capable of helping nonprofits. That's what the SBDC does. Laurie, obviously we presented what it is, and I think that every business out there can benefit in some way from contacting you. How can they do that?
First thing is, I'm not always at this location, but you can come to the Logan County Economic Development Office, and you can talk to the guys that are down there because that is where we meet people. And so that is at 312 Main Street in Sterling. My phone number, you can call me directly at area code 970-520-0798. And you can also look us up on the website, on Facebook, and we've actually got Twitter feeds out there. But you can go through a search engine just to type up SBDC Colorado. It'll list all of them. If you're outside our listening area, you can find another. Our website address is neeccosbdc.org. But again, go to a search engine, type in small business help, and you will eventually get there.
Absolutely. And you can always call us here at the station as well. I've talked to a couple different business owners, and the other important thing to note is when you're working with the SBDC, it is confidential.
You know, that's really critical because an awful lot of people say, we want to know who's all working with you, especially new businesses. We love new businesses in our area because it creates, to many people, more excitement. And what I have to remind people of is, number one, whether you're a startup business or whether you are an existing business wanting to do something different, we do sign agreements with you as a client that protect your confidentiality. And with that said, if you want us to talk about it or you want to get a testimonial to present, and I know, Ben, you've talked a little bit about it, but we think that's very important too. The nature of what we discuss is protected through that confidentiality.
No reason that any small business shouldn't at least make sure that everything is going right. Laurie, we appreciate you helping us present these Small Business Mondays.
Great. Thank you so much.